Welcome to my channel. This video is for 3 homecoming mum braids. Those braids are a layered military braid, a victory braid, and a layered wide loop chain. If you haven't done so, please subscribe and don't forget to tap that bell for notifications on my uploads and live streams. And please share, comment, but please be kind with your comments. So the first braid or chain that we're going to do is the layered military braid. I call this a layered because use 2 sizes of ribbons and you can see both sizes of those ribbons, so it gives it a layered look. You want to lay the smaller ribbon on top of the wider ribbon and form a loop, but you want to make sure that loop is big enough to fit inside of another loop. So I already did the first one, now I'm doing the second one, and I just have to match up the second one to the first one because I know that loop is big enough. If you're making a regular military braid, you only need 2 ribbons of the same size. And I prefer to work off the ribbon spools, but you can't always do that. But it's much easier. You don't have to measure any ribbons, and then you can just keep making until it's long enough. Now I'm starting this slowly because I want you guys to see which direction I start my ribbons. So you can see the layered ribbons are top side, they're facing up, so that's going to give you the same look as my braid. If you do this the opposite direction where your layered ribbons are face down, you're going to get a completely different look. Or if you alternate where one's face up, one's face down, you're not going to get the look that I have on this braid, so be careful about that. Military braids are one of the simplest braids to make. You just form a loop and you put that inside of the other loop, and then you want to keep tugging your ribbons though to make sure it's nice and snug, and then you just keep making a loop and putting it inside the other loop, and then you'll pull those ribbons. See on the right how I pull those, and then just keep making that loop. Make sure that loop is big enough. And now I'm going to move on to the right side. I'm going to form a loop, put it inside the loop I just made on the left side. Push that in, tug those ribbons, and when you're doing a layered one like this, you're going to try to make sure those ribbons stay centered, and that can be the most difficult part of this braid. So if you don't know how to make a regular military braid, please start with one of those before you start with this, and master that first before you move on to adding more ribbons and layering ribbons and such. But this is the classic braid. The military braid is not this one, the layered one, but the regular military braid is a classic braid. So this is the new spin on that, and you can have a lot of fun with these. You can make them twice as long as you need and twist them and do fun things with them. Loop them around. They don't have to just be straight on the mum. So it's very simple. Just keep doing your loops, keep making your loops and pushing them inside of another one, and then pull those ribbons snug. So I'm going to pull the one on the left snug next. Then I'm going to make a loop on the left, put it inside the loop on the right, and then I'll pull those ribbons on the right snug. Very simple. And just make sure, again, you want to make sure those ribbons are staying layered, because those layered ribbons are going to be in the center of my military braid when I'm finished. Now I'm going to speed through the rest of this until I get to the end so you guys can see how I end this braid. Make as many loops as I can until you get the right length, or you just want to quit. So you can see those ones on the left are a little short. I wouldn't be able to make but maybe one more loop. And I just fold that up and cross them all together and then staple that right in the center. It's very simple, nothing complicated about it. And you want to trim off those ribbons at the top. Just leave yourself a couple of inches maybe to attach that to your backer. Now if you made it too short and you can see where that staple is, just simply make a bow or something and attach right there, or put a small trinket. So now we're going to move on to the victory braid. And I'm going to start this braid differently than what I have in the past, so please pay attention to the beginning of this. So the first difference is I'm starting with 2 ribbons instead of 4, so I doubled the length of those ribbons instead of the 4 to get the 2. And then I crease the center and I'm making a point in the center. So since I need a 15-inch braid, I cut my ribbons about 48 inches. So each of these 2 ribbons is about 48 inches, but I would go a little bit more. I always like to cut a few extra inches, up to 6 inches. So at least a couple inches, but more like 6 inches, because no 2 braids turn out the same length. I don't know what it is. So it's always a safer bet to go a little bit extra. I know it's kind of wasteful on some ribbons, but you will be happier if you don't end up with a too short ribbon. So you see I have 2 points here, and I'm placing one inside the other one, and then I'm just folding that bottom ribbon on top of one of those ribbons and then underneath the next ribbon. So I know that's very confusing, but just think of a basket weave. So each ribbon is on top of one ribbon and under another ribbon. So that's how you start this chain. And that's how you always fold. It's always like over and under. So now I gotta turn it sideways to start the chain, or to start the braid. But I want to adjust those points to get them at the right angle, because if you don't have them at the right angle and you start braiding and your creases don't match up to the edges of the ribbons that it's creasing against, you're going to get a bad braid. So my tip for that is to start braiding, but do not crease yet. Do a couple of braids there and pull on those ribbons and just make sure that you have the right angle started. So you can pause this as well and kind of look and see where I have those points at and try to match that up as best you can. So I'm going to put a staple in there to keep that in place so it doesn't move around. And I'm going to leave that ribbon that I already started braiding, I'm going to leave it in place so you can see that as well. I know since they're all white, it's a little bit more difficult, but if you pause it, you will be able to follow along. So just take a piece of masking tape, again, to hold it to my mat or my table. And then I also am going to take this flat wide ruler. This is a Fisker's ruler. It came with my cutting mat and my rotary cutter, and I love this. I love this for assisting with the braids and chains, especially for the tutorials, because as you can see, even though I'm putting it on top of the braid, you can still see through it, so you can still see what I'm doing. What I used to do is I used to use a hardcover book, and that works well too if that's what you've got. So you want to crease those ribbons, and you want to make sure that they butt up against the ribbons that they are creasing against. So see how I'm pulling that snug and then giving it a crease. That's going to give you a better looking victory braid. And you see I take my thumb and I kind of push that one up before creasing. So when you're making the triangles, you want to push that up. So I went under, over, I'm over the very left ribbon, but then I go back under the left ribbon, and then I pull that snug. It's another triangle, so I'm going to take my thumb. Well, I didn't that time. Usually I'll take my thumb and kind of push that up and make sure that it's in the right spot. So you're just constantly going under and over ribbons. See, I'm going under, there's the triangle, and I kind of pushed it up with my thumb. And then I keep pulling my ruler down on top of it to keep it flat. This braid really looks best if it's well creased and it's nice and flat. So if you want a really, really good looking one, make it in advance, put it on a flat surface, and put something heavy and flat on top of it, so some hardcover books, something like that, and it will come out, and leave it like that overnight, and you will be so impressed with how good it looks. So that goes for any flat braid or chain, like Spirit chains, Texas chain, or Texas braid. Those all look good if you do that technique. So now I'm going to speed up because I'm getting towards the end. And this is just a constant back and forth pattern going from right to left. You never use the middle 2 ribbons to braid. It's always the outer ones. Just keep going until it's either long enough or you get to the end. It's an easy braid too. It looks complicated, but once you get that pattern down, it's really easy. So just practice, play around with it. here I am just taking my time there on the end to make sure I get it. I don't want to end up with a too short ribbon, so just getting it just long enough. Checking to make sure it's long enough. Measure it. Then I flip it over and I fold over those ribbons, the outer two, like this. Unless you want all 4 ribbon ends hanging down on your braid, whatever you like. So I just fold those outer 2 in like that and cut off the excess and give it a staple. And then I trim up the bottom to make them look pretty. But you can end it however you want. Actually, that's the end that goes on the backer, so it really doesn't matter how pretty that looks. Because I'm using the opposite side on the bottom of the mum, so that's the pretty side, so that's what's going to be on the bottom of the mum. And you can put a bow on that, you can put a trinket or whatever. Now for the wide loop chain, I'm using a 2.5 inch sparkalene and the 1.3 inch acetate, also known as the number 9. Now I cut these at 6 inches long for a loop chain. And this is the gold sparkalene. It's a very pretty ribbon. It's kind of holographic and glittery looking, so it's really pretty to use on mums. I've been really happy with it. Now with the white on top of it, you can see the gold underneath. It doesn't look crisp, so I had to double these up. So double the white on top of it. You're going to have to do that a lot when you use white on top of any color. A lot of times it will really dull the white, so you want to double them up to make it look really crisp and white. And for the first one, I'm just eyeballing it and starting it where I want it, where I think it looks good. Then I'll give that 2 staples, since it's a wide loop chain. Then I'll start my next one, and I'm actually going to alternate which side the white is on. So then when I do the name or whatever words I'm going to put on this, each letter will be like, one will be on the left side, one will be on the right side. And this is actually better, easier for you to make it like this design, because you don't have to get those loops, those layered ribbons perfect. You see, I matched up the second one, but I did it on the reverse side. I just want to make sure the edges were the same length or same width. The white, the little edge there between the white and gold, I want to make sure I have the same amount there. So I match them up. Every time I make one, I just hold it up to an existing one and try to match it up as perfectly as I can. And you just want to make as many loops as you need. Now you can attach loops really close together or far apart. If you do them far apart, then you have to put some kind of bling or something on them to cover the staples. You can do them pretty evenly apart. It just depends on what look you're going for. So I'm using the sparkalene as the base ribbon as well, and you want to cut that a couple inches longer than what you need. So you see I've got it a little bit longer. I need 15 inches for my mum, because my mid-size have 15-inch braids and chains, like I said. So you want to go an inch or 2 longer to make sure you have enough ribbon to attach to your backer. And I left some space at the bottom so you can see that V cut that I just cut, or the dovetail, whatever you want to call it. So I already attached the first one, but now I'm going to lay out each one, and I'm just going to kind of see how far apart I need to place them. Now if you know how long the person's name is, so you're making that many loops for their name, or maybe 2 extra loops for their name, it's a good idea to place them like this and see how close together or far apart you need to attach them before you start attaching them. And you just get an idea in your head how close they need to be together. And you see the white ones are alternated. One's on the very first one I attached is closer to the right, and then the next one is closer to the left, and the next one's closer to the right. I'm just going to keep going back and forth. And that's just my personal preference. I like that look. I think it's fun to kind of gives it a whimsical look when you put their name on there. But like I said before, you don't have to be as exact when you do it this way, because you can't see those layered ribbons line up going down. And that's where people get into trouble and get flustered and stuff. So if you go with this design, you'll be a lot happier. On that top one, I'm just trimming that off because you will be able to see this. So I'm trimming that, and then I'm going to add some bling to this to cover that up, because you want to cover those staples up. And I'm just checking a couple different things that I have to see how they're going to look. That was the flower shaped diamond mesh. Now I have the regular diamond mesh, and that's what I'm going to end up using. So I just lay some different things down to see which one I like better. Then you just cut this to whatever length you need and width. I think this is only too long, but usually they come out much wider. You can buy them at different widths, and you can find this ribbon virtually anywhere. You can find it at Hobby Lobby, Michael's, any of those craft stores. I believe you can even get it at Walmart. You can find it at Dollar Tree. You can get it on Amazon. It's very easy to find. So I'm starting with these first two, and I glue one side, attach it, and then I glue the rest, and then carefully attach it as well. And that glue will come through like the gaps in that ribbon, so just be very careful when you're touching it. They do make finger protectors, and sometimes I wear those, but sometimes I forget. Now I'm doing another strand because you could still see the staples and stuff. It needed a wider band of this diamond mesh. And this is going to add some more bling and just make it really pretty. Just a little decorative thing on there. Very pretty. Very simple. Now I'm going to take one of those little flower shaped ones and put it right on the bottom, right at that V cut. Just to add a little bit more, just a little touch of rhinestone. So here it is after I attached all the ribbon streamers and all these braids and chains. Now here is the mum when it was completely finished. You see how beautiful it turned out. I was so proud of this. And you see how plain some of those braids looked until you bling them up and add bows and add fun stuff to them. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. Please subscribe. Don't forget to tap that bell. Don't forget to like and share. It's very important that you share videos with people because that helps my channel grow. Don't forget to comment, but please be kind with your comments, and please be kind to others, and happy mum making and happy crafting, everyone.